Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. I want to first and foremost apologize for not being able to come on yesterday. I had a prior commitment. Hold on, this dog is, hold on. Sorry, I had to go outside. If you guys can see, like, I have this big black mark here. That's because I had to go out in the rain and go get Beckham from outside because he was screaming his freaking head off at 7 o'clock in the morning. So sorry about that. And he just started doing it again in here. And I'm just like, can you just like stop for 5 seconds? Every time I'm right up, like as soon as I'm about to stream, here you come. Um, can you guys see me and hear me okay? Let me know because I feel like the internet's going a little bit slow. So I just want to make sure you guys can actually see me and hear me. So please confirm that. So yeah, guys, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to come on yesterday. I had a prior commitment and it ran over longer than what it was supposed to. And so I kept pushing it back to the point that it was like the show would have started at midnight, and I was like, we could just talk about it today. So I have two streams today. This one now, and then one with Dan Potts at 6 p.m. UK time. So you'll get multiple streams, but yeah, I am disappointed that we didn't get to like live in that afterglow of that win like immediately after together, because I was watching the game like on my phone and I was just like, when we were talking prior to the game, we were like, I think we all agreed that we kind of needed a big win away from home in the Champions League. And I think we got it. I think we got it. Um, 5-1 away from home against an informed Sporting Lisbon with the most informed striker in the world. Um, and we absolutely wiped them off the pitch. We played brilliant. Um, the football was smooth, it was fluid. Um, it was a step up, in my opinion, from even what we did against Nottingham Forest, because against Nottingham Forest, we played the fluid football, but we still kind of lack that cutting edge in ways. We were so clinical and so brutal in this game that I think it really took Sporting aback. We were on top of them early on in that game. And for the first time this season, maybe the second time this season, actually, I think Liverpool is the only other game where we scored a goal like in the first like 10 minutes. And I think that just threw them off, which is great. And then we just kept on them. And one of the things that, we've spoken about a lot on this channel is the differences between the Champions League and the Premier League, and how in the Champions League, you kind of just have to show yourself. You almost have to open up a little bit more, and almost like not be so afraid to play your game, because the other team is going to get chances anyway, but you need to be in a position where you can hurt them. And Sporting had good shots on goal, by the way. They hit the bar. Raya had to make so they had chances. It wasn't like they had no chances whatsoever, but we were just so devastating going the other way that it didn't matter. And it was the first time under Mikel Arteta that I actually feel like we played like a seasoned European team, not someone that was trying to desperately keep the other team from scoring. We were confident in what we could do, that we didn't even care. And we left Gabriel and Saliba to deal with Gyokeres, and that was enough to keep them from being able to do anything. So yeah, I think it was just a really, really good day to cap off a week where there was uncertainty going into it. Nottingham Forest was a must-win game, which is insane. And we won that one with a rotated lineup with, players, bench players or squad players coming in and making a difference. And then to come into the Sporting game I told you. I told you that. Can you guys see me now? Because I was talking and I saw that the comments had stopped. And I was like, let me go check myself. And just as that happened, everything kind of went down. But I think it's just the weather out here now that it's like raining all of a sudden, like the internet's not working or whatever. But it seems to be working now. So, yeah, but sorry. But yeah, it's like I could tell. I was like, something is not right. So I went to go check myself. But yeah, like I was saying, I just think that we needed that. And it was the perfect week for Arsenal. We rotated, squad players did their job, starting players did their job. Everyone pretty much played really, really well. We got to see a Wanyeri goal this week. We got to see him in Europe. It's just been a really, really, really good um week for Arsenal, and so we want to continue that into the weekend. But yeah, Gyokeres, I think, ended up being a massive, massive storyline in this game because he was locked up in the Saliba and Gabriel Penetentiary, and he's still there serving a life sentence. The guy got nothing off until Kivior came on, and that's just the difference between like our starting CBs and then the guys that come in, which is normal. You usually have a drop off, but he really was getting no change out of Gabriel and Saliba. And Gabriel doing his celebration, I thought was really funny. I think that, in football, unlike other sports, especially like American sports, it can be a little stuffy and like lacks a little bit of like actually fun banter, like the types of banter that's actually funny, like stealing somebody's celebration is funny. Um, but people getting their, panties in a twist over it. I'm just like, this is the type of banter that we should like, not the nonsense that goes on online that's not even funny. So yeah, I really enjoyed that from Gabrielle. And listen, like Gyokeres took it well. He was like, listen, he likes my celebration. So yeah, I thought it was funny. And if you don't, I think you have probably don't have a sense of humor. Like it's not that big of a deal. Um, Saliba, or no, sorry, Saka has stole Rashford and Madison's celebration. It's not a big deal. They do it back and forth to each other. So, yeah. But Gyökeres is an interesting one just because, and we'll talk about this probably even more with Dan Potts later, is that, this was meant to be, some people were saying this was his, like our audition for him. And I thought that that was fucking dumb. Like, no matter how bad we are at the moment, Arsenal is always going to be a step up from Sporting Lisbon. I know that they've won that league. It's not a top 5 league. So it's a step up. And so we were not auditioning for him. If anything, he was auditioning for us. And depending on who you ask, he failed, or you're just playing up against arguably the best center back pairing in Europe. And, better men have fallen, against these two center backs. So yeah, I'll be interested to know what you guys think. But I think, you saw the difference in him when he was going up against Kivior versus Gabriel and Saliba. When is he going to actually come up against a center back pairing like that? Probably only if he plays against us or he plays against Liverpool. I think Van Dijk and Kanate and Saliba and Gabriel are pretty much like as good as you're going to get. Everyone else you can get change from, so it's interesting. If you didn't want him, you'll say that he failed. Means that you just have to go for Isak. But I think it's a little bit unfair to just like judge him based on yesterday. We were on absolute smoke and we're a much better side than them. So, and we showed it on the day and it was just like very obvious. We've seen better strikers not be able to get anything off of the back of us. But yeah, Gyökeres struggled a little bit, didn't really get anything off, but it is what it is. I like that Gabriel used his celebration. I thought it was funny. And it was a really good day for the Arsenal. Gunnar 217 says, we executed the press brilliantly, but I still want Gyökeres. The guy is a nuisance and didn't shy away from the challenge despite not having service from his team. Strong and top character. Boy says Gyökeres kept our center backs honest. He's good. I mean, it wasn't like he was never on the ball or whatever. They tried to get him into the channels, but you're not stronger than Gabriel and you're not faster than Saliba. It's just you're locked up. It's very rare that you're going to find a center forward that's going to be able to deal with the two of them. There's like no one else, so it's difficult for me to use this as like a benchmark of like what he would be like for us if we bought him. But I think it's an easy, well, fuck him, if you didn't want him. So I hear that for sure. um let's see. Samuel says, if anyone does that to one of your players, you guys will complain. I don't know, maybe you're not like an Arsenal fan or whatever, but um no, it's just banter. Like, it's just banter. It is funny. Like, it's objectively funny. Most people thought it was funny, unless you were Freddie Ljungberg, who's Swedish, so obviously you didn't find it funny. Or you. It was funny. Boy says Gyokeres mustn't be a baby about a celebration. Rashford stole Saka's celebration, and people still wanted to sign Rashford, bro. It's not that deep. I really just think like football, like European football, is very stiff and lacks the ability to make fun of itself or poke fun. Big Smoke says Gyokeres did well against the best center back pairing. I'd still take him. Jacob says, I doubt Gyokeres is going to come after Gabriel doing that. I mean, if anything, it should make him want to play for us, because you're going to have to, like, we have, like, you should want to play for the best teams, so if anything, he if you went up against City and you busted them up, and you're watching the downfall that is them at the current moment, you played up against Arsenal and you see, what we were like, I think you'd be interested in coming to Arsenal. I mean, the same thing happened with Declan Rice. He was getting busted up by us and he wanted to come, so if anything, he should want to come. And playing up against the best center backs will only make him a better striker, so that's how I think of it anyway. Boy says, bring Gyokeres to the carpet. He will be a star here. He's just so, it was just very interesting. He was very frustrated on the day. And, I like that. I like to see people frustrated because they couldn't do anything against us. Andy says, facts, Gyokeres totally skinned Saliba on the halfway line, then power past Kiwi and smashed the post. I still want Gyokeres at my club. Mubarak says, without injuries and setbacks, we are certified with that performance. I mean, here's the thing. I feel like we'll probably talk about this more with Dan, but we can only look forward from here. We are where we are, and the assignment is still the same. And we will encounter more injuries. We will have more difficult matches. So we have to be able to persevere beyond those without, not winning a game in 4. So I think we have to learn how to deal with the setbacks a little bit better. Because, of course, when we have our best players available to us and we're physically up to the challenge, this is who we are. But we also saw that we're also a team that struggles, without certain players, So, yeah, we can look forward from here. But, it's not always going to be perfect. Yes, you have to have a little bit of luck, and we haven't had that much luck. But we haven't dealt with the bad moments well enough, in my opinion. Jonathan says Gyokeres is still an easier deal than Isak. Newcastle can't stand us. I just cannot see them selling him to us with the off the field stuff too. I just can't see it. We're on completely different sides of the coin when it comes to, how the rules should be regulated in the Premier League, and those things come into play. I've never really, it's like seeing the way Newcastle were so up for the games against us only makes me think that it's because there's other stuff involved in it. But because they don't have that energy for anyone else. They don't play that way against anyone else but us. They have there's too much lip and too much neck and too much shit going on for it to just be on the pitch. We've never had a problem with Newcastle before they had new owners, so yeah, but I do think it's an easier deal than Isak. I just don't see how when we talked about this the other day, 115 million. I just don't see how you do that and still address other things unless you don't anticipate addressing other things. And I just feel like that would be a failing for Arsenal, to be honest. Diehard Gunner says Gyokeres is not better than Kai. We should sign Victor Osimhen. That is the monster we need. As a goal scorer, he's better than Kai. Kwame says, hi, Jess. I can't stop my joy. 5 goals in Lisbon. We got absolutely incredible. I I just yeah, I mean, that was the best. Yeah, you guys could tell me if you agree, but to me, that is our best performance under Mikel Arteta because of the level of the opposition away in Europe. We've never done that away from Europe, away in Europe with Mikel Arteta. And, we've smashed teams away from home, but they haven't really been of the caliber or pedigree of Sporting. We've smashed West Ham, but it's like it's West Ham, so and that's no offense to West Ham. You know what I mean? But just that level of performance was just perfect. It was like the perfect balance of attack and also your defensive principles. I mean, we are conceding goals on set pieces more than I would like, but when you score 5 goals, it's kind of like it's neither here nor there. So, yeah, I think, yeah, that was like our best performance under Mikel Arteta. Um, I just feel like it was on a completely different level than things that we've seen in 22, 23. And I know that that's like the benchmark for a lot of people, but I think people forget in 22, 23, we always had a kind of like a bozo moment in us. We concede more goals. Um, we rarely scored 5. I think we scored 5 like once. Um, so to me, this is like the tip top level of anything that we've ever done under Mikel, and it comes after some of the worst football I've ever seen us play under Mikel, which is insane. We're gonna get to Timber and some of the individual performances in just a second. Make sure you guys are smashing the likes. Um, Burmy says, Jess, would you say that team is the best starting 11 for AFC? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I have some issues with, like Declan in the 8, but I think he played much lower or much deeper this time, and that suits him better because he can actually carry the ball forward. He wasn't on the forward line. So as long as he's not playing as basically a second striker, it's our best 11. It's all about, I feel like it's more just about how Arteta sets up the team, because those are our best players, that's for sure. Calafiori on that left-hand side, wonderful. Opens up those angles and those avenues for Martinelli, and we're getting Martinelli in better positions to hit the ball first time. And I feel like I think that's the best. I think that that's the best is when Martinelli doesn't have to think as much. When he doesn't have to think as much, I feel like that's when he shines the most. And then in terms of like, you guys know that I think that this is our best back line. I think Calafiori and Timber are our best fullbacks. This is our best, center back pairing. So yeah, you would probably say that this is our best 11. Do we have to do different things in different circumstances? Yeah. Does Trossard need to come in sometimes? Maybe, do you want to change things up a little bit? Yeah, of course. But I think for the most part, like this is as close, this is as close as you're going to get to our best 11. Um, you know, let's see. Kwame says Timber is an excellent fullback. Marino will come of age. I mean, he's 28, but so yeah, Andy says Martinelli is still the guy I want gone and improved on. I mean, for now, we got what we got. Jonathan says we had 6 players in the box at 90 minutes. I was shocked. The shackles are truly off. Total domination. And, maybe Arteta, because I think one of the, we really focused on like getting players back. We wanted to get Odegaard back. That was really important. Get our fullbacks back, get Timber, Calafiori back in. But one thing we never really talked about during the international break was Arteta needing to loosen the reins a little bit. I think it's not just that we got our players back because we've played stiff funeral football with damn near this 11 before at times. It's about Arteta just letting them play their football a little bit and just loosening up. And I do think that maybe he went into the international break and kind of looked at the way that we were playing. We were playing so scared. We weren't even playing our game. The triangles weren't there, the one-touch passing, the confidence on the ball. And I think Odegaard gives you some of that, and that gives him maybe more confidence to play a more fluid style. But I think he even went up a couple more percentages in terms of allowing players to switch positions, Saka to come more central, Odegaard to switch from left to right. Rice was popping up on the right-hand side. That's how he got like the pre-assist. He popped up on the right-hand side. He wasn't just on the left. Marino even pops up on the right when he plays in that position. I just think Arteta's went back to the drawing board, and I think he realizes that that front five, like the left center mid, the right center mid, and the front three, have to be able to switch positions and be closer together in order for us to get anything out of the group. They cannot be so spread apart. But I agree that like the shackles are definitely off and they should stay off. Brian says, I think Declan is hurt much worse than Arsenal is letting on. He couldn't really run like he usually does yesterday. I would say rewatch that the first half when the game ended, I was like, that was like an okay game for him. But when you rewatch it, he actually had some decent moments of carrying the ball. He was good in terms of like that pre-assist for the first goal. I think he's not at 100% fitness. And if you break your toe, I would imagine that it's probably difficult to run normally and stuff like that. So, I'm not really that worried about it. We have Marino too. So, we're able to bring Rice off and then bring Marino on and not really like lose everything. So, yeah, I think it's fine. I think he said after the game that it was like actually after the Nottingham Forest game, he said it was like 60 more minutes in the tank or whatever. So he's clearly building up fitness. So, yeah, it's fine. Let's see. I'm going down, 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 down. Let's see. Isaac says, if we keep this up, do you reckon we can ramp up pressure on Liverpool to make a few mistakes? I think it all depends on what happens this weekend. I think we could beat West Ham, but if they beat City, that's one less team that could really take points off of them. And I know that people are like, well, they have weaknesses, but Liverpool are kind of like that weird team that's like the opposition doesn't make their chances or they get rattled. Like, do you see the way Southampton acted against them? Like they were just like shitting their fucking pants. So I think if they beat City, then it makes it even more difficult because there's less of a real team that you feel like can take points off of them. And they will gain confidence. And like I said, I know that it's possible to bottle the league from the position that they're in because we've done it. But not many teams do. When you get to Christmas, whoever's up front usually does win it. So we get to Christmas time and they're still there. I don't know. We can close the gap. And we probably will close the gap just ever so much. But 9 points is a really difficult, and we've already played them at home. So we have to go to Anfield. That's why the Liverpool result at home, although it wasn't catastrophic, it did damage us a little bit because, if we had beat them at home, we would have only been like 7 points behind or whatever, So, yeah, but I think we just need to focus on ourselves right now. I really think I spelled it wrong. Did I spell it wrong? Hold on. Penetentiary. I think, yeah, I copied and pasted the wrong word here. I don't feel like changing it. You guys knew what I was saying. Oh my God, I'm so penitentiary. I mean, did I really spell it wrong? Oh. Oh, it's like a I. I'm missing an I. Hold on. Guys, I was doing this at like 5:00 in the morning. Allow it. Penna. Like that? Yeah. Okay. It was just the I. You guys knew what I was saying? Y'all knew what I was saying. This is good enough. If it's still wrong, fuck it. Y'all knew what I was talking about. He was in prison. Let's just put it that way. He was in prison. And he's still there. I'm so tired. Oh my gosh, I slept on the couch last night and it was not great sleep. So I'm sorry. I'm like still like a little, yeah. But like, yeah, 5:00 in the morning when it's dark, you're trying to like it's rough. Amina says, "Why is everyone focused on Liverpool when Chelsea is above us? Maybe I'm the only one that's panicking. It's probably PTSD." I mean, I don't know. Are you guys panicking about Chelsea being above us? I mean, if the like, if we don't win the league, finishing 2 through 4 doesn't change anything in my opinion. I think, obviously you want to be closer to 1 than 4. But yeah, if we finish 4 and Chelsea finish 3, if everything stays the way that it is right now, it's kind of like, you know, um and we don't need to catch Chelsea either. So I think that's why people are looking at Liverpool. It's because we don't have to catch Chelsea. Chelsea and us have the same points. We have the same record. So I think, yeah, you have to think about chasing Liverpool down because you're not really chasing Chelsea down. We're in the same position. But yeah, I have to be honest. I don't really, I'm not even thinking about Chelsea. I'm more thinking about how can we salvage the season in a way where, if we don't win the league, what else can we do? Because the league for me feels a little bit too far away at this point. Yeah, if Chelsea finished before us, I don't really care. Blaze says, right now we just need to go game by game and focus on ourselves. Let's focus on the next game. Instead of thinking about Liverpool. And yeah, I think we just need to keep our wits about us, and maintain this. I'm so scared these dogs are tearing up something. They were. And yeah, it's not good. Having puppies is great. Having puppies is great. Having puppies is amazing. I could just feel that they were tearing something up. Whew. Jacob says, just look at Liverpool's fixtures before Jan. As long as we go on a run, we won't be. I think the thing is though, like everybody thought that their fixtures right now were going to be difficult, and they flew through those. So yeah, I think let's just see where we are when we get to Christmas. Hopefully we're within 3 points. If not, better than that. But let's just focus on ourselves just a little bit because we've had 2 good games. One in the league and one in the Champions League. So yeah, we just need to make sure we're, maintaining. Diallo says, if you're panicking because Chelsea are ahead of us, you need therapy for real. I think Chelsea is just such a small narrative for me, because I don't know if you guys didn't feel like they would improve. I always felt like they would be good and improve quickly because they bought talented players. And even if you have a bad coach, as long as you buy talented players, you can get something out of them. And so Maresca is a decent coach and he has a team full of talent. So based on what they've spent and the talent that they have, of course they're gonna come up the table. So Chelsea was already always like an inevitability to me. So it doesn't really, it's one of those things where I don't really care now. If Man United start getting up that table, you guys will see a much different Jessica. So yeah, maybe it's just because they're not my main op. I don't really give a fuck. Do you know what I mean? I really don't care. It is what it is. But back to us, back to us, back to us. Um how good is Bukayo Saka? I feel like I almost forgot to talk about him yesterday. Like when I was talking to, I was on Twitter and I was like, and I was like, Odegaard, Timber, blah, blah, blah. And people are like, don't forget Saka. And it's like, it's not that I forget Saka. I think it's just, it's so evergreen at this point with Saka that like, I'm used to the performances, but I feel like we can't forget to like speak on it. Um, Saka is just like showing a different level this season. I think it needs to be spoken about. I think when people were saying that, he doesn't move them, he should be moving you now because no, he's not doing a bunch of stupid ass step overs. But even the pass that he made to Trossard at the end of yesterday's game was something that, like, hello, weak foot passes into space to Trossard, like on a dime. That's crazy. Like, he's just on a different level, really. And the penalty was brilliant. I was looking at it now. I mean, a goal and an assist. Um, wow. Wow, 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 wow. He's just a very special player. And I don't think we should stop saying it. I think, somebody, I think it was like a Liverpool fan was like, how aren't people talking about Saka more? And I'm like, we do. We talk about Saka all the time, but whenever we talk about Saka, we're shut down by other people saying that he doesn't move them or whatever. But if he played for anyone else, I think this is mostly just Arsenal tax. I don't even think it's trophy tax because other players that haven't won anything in their career are considered better players than Saka because they moved them or because they just played for a different side. So people are honest about the player. Saka is just so, if he played for anyone else, they would be like, people would speak about him so much more positively. I mean, he's not just some GA guy that just gets the GA. Like, the guy is so good and he is our best player. I think your best player and your most influential can be a little bit different. I think Odegaard is probably our most influential player, but I think our best player is Saka, because he's good, like, in every scenario. And I actually think you could put him in any position and he'd probably do really well. I'd like to see it. I think you could put him in midfield and he would do really well. I don't like watching football for Arsenal without Saka, and luckily we don't have to see it very often. But the performance yesterday, they were saying that he has to do it in the Champions League. Well, he's fucking doing it, you know? It's just, yeah, like, I think Saka is brilliant. Kwame says John Saka gets better and better. You know what Saka is doing and you can't stop him, world class. I've said for probably about a year now that, and I never gave on it. And we're like, you still think Saka's world class? You still think Saka's world class? Yes, I do. I thought Saka was world class for a while now. I just think that it took people a while to accept it because they can't get over aesthetics tax or Arsenal tax or whatever it is. But the level of consistency at this level is just like, you don't see it for very many players that are his age either. Um, so I think he's world class based on my definition of world class. And no, it's not Troy Deeney's world class. He said, "Oh, a world class player is someone I'd want my son to play like." Fuck off. No, a world class player to me is best in their position for 2-3 seasons, like best in their position, top 3 in their position. Like, these are the people that we recognize as the best in that particular position. And I think he's pretty much been that for that amount of time, if not longer. Like, he's just been so good. And so, yeah, I think he's great. And I think we should continue to say it because you shouldn't let, like, rivals or whatever make you renege on it, because if they had Saka, they would be saying he was world class. Trust. Amina says, to be honest, Saka has been doing this consistently since he was 18. His performance improved over the years. Jacob says Saka is going to have 40 GA this season. I mean, this could be his crazy season. Do you know what I mean? You know how players have, like, you look at Salah's like, records at times and you're just like, that was an insane season. He got like 20 goals and 20, like, Saka could genuinely have one of those types of seasons in all comps. Like, he's just 4 goals, 8 assists in the Premier League already, and 2 goals and 1 assist in the Champions League already. I mean, let's be so fucking for real. We should be talking about this guy so much more. Because the reality is that there's a lot of players that have, maybe higher flash points at points, where, for a couple of games or a half a season, they're performing better than Saka, but they can never maintain it. Saka maintains it, whether he's in form or not, which is really difficult. Usually, when players are not in form, they can't get a goal. They can't, they can't score or get an assist or nothing, and he still gets them. So, yeah. And I think, like I said yesterday, I think his performances are marrying up with the GA this season, where I think last season he had some not so great performances, but he got the GA just because he's just that guy. Do you know what I mean? Boy says, don't think there's that much of a separation between Odegaard and Saka. I agree with that. Odegaard, another that is becoming undeniably world class this season. We're going to talk about him in just a second too. But yeah, and I don't do Saka versus Odegaard nonsense. I feel like that's a disease that has infected the online fan base. Um, in a way that's like very embarrassing. It's like we're not used to having two really good players, so we have to like pin them up against each other. But were you guys not watching our right hand side yesterday? They were unplayable, including like you put Timber in there, and it was just like a nasty, nasty day for Sporting's left hand side. And Saka said it himself that when Odegaard came back into the team, he was smiling. So I think like it's time to just like dead all this bullshit about Odegaard and Saka and it should be this or it should be that, or we need to figure out a way to get our left hand side like our right. That's pretty much like where we're at now. Our right hand side is great, and if Arteta allows them to be more free, then Odegaard it can float over to the left. There is more freedom. He's not standing in Saka's way or whatever the fuck people were saying. So, yeah, I think there's not much between them. They're our top players. Like without them, we look like ass. Like this is Saka and Odegaard's team. Saka's the face and Odegaard's the captain. So yeah, they're wonderful. DK says they keep moving the goalposts. Victor says Saka is literally showing he's clear of Foden. Jacob says Odegaard, Saka, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, all world class. I don't care. Isaac says Saka isn't smooth, but who cares? The stats all show that he belongs with the very best, just needs the trophies. And like this whole like not smooth thing as well. Like the goal that he scored against Nottingham Forest was class. The goal that he scored against Liverpool was class. Like, no, he's not a poetry in motion player, but he's definitely like I don't think he's hard to watch. I think people have tried to make it seem like he's a tough watch. I think Saka looks great. I just don't think that he does a lot of the extra bullshit, and I think that that's fine. Elvis says 2 goals and 2 assists in 4 days. That's goal involvements every day. World class. Victor says Dini is a bum. What kind of metric is that? When he said that, I was like, you need to sit the fuck down. Why are we giving this guy a microphone still? Like, he's talking about Salah is not world class because I wouldn't want my son to play like him. We're giving this guy airtime. That is fucking insane. That is a terrible metric. People that, use trophies or eye test or whatever, those are fine metrics because those are football metrics. We don't give a damn what you want your son to do. We don't care about that. Saying out of your fucking mouth that Salah is not world class is just you should be revoked of ever being able to buy a microphone, to ever be able to talk to a phone, to be able to get on camera. You should be blacklisted. Anytime your face comes up, it should just be a black screen. Like, hello? Saying Salah is not world class no one should take the man serious. Like that's crazy to me. I've never, and this is why when certain people speak, it's just like we should never take them serious. Like Salah. Mohamed Salah. Like, okay. Jonathan says he said Salah is not world class. Lord have mercy. And for a reason that is just like you can't even like what? Like that's insane. Big Smoke, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, what can we do to make that left half space as good as the right half space? That's a really good question. Um, I think the left half space needs an upgrade on left center mid and left wing. And I think I think Ben Madison put out a thread yesterday speaking about the future of our midfield and saying that like in the meantime it's going to be, Rice kind of doing like this double shift on like, sometimes playing in the 6 and sometimes playing in the 8. But, long term, he'll drop into the 6 and then we'll play 2 creative mids. And I do feel like at some stage we will get there. I just don't think that maybe we don't have the platform for it right now, or we don't have the right player to put in that creative position on the left. But eventually we'll get there. But I do think that I feel like you need more of a somebody more of like probably the best example I could give is somebody that offers a goal threat and creativity, but it's not so lightweight that you lose all of your shape. And that's a really difficult player to find. I don't think that player, like most players that are creative, offer no structure whatsoever. So you kind of have to like platform them differently or whatever. And that's where Rice definitely comes in. So yeah, I think eventually we'll get that player, but not now. But the left wing is something that we could have done 2 years ago. And that's not to say that I don't think Martinelli's form is going up. I definitely think Martinelli's form is going up. He scored a really nice goal, first goal, opening goal yesterday. But could we do better there? I think so. So I think Calafiori definitely ups the levels on that side. And Declan Rice and Marino are not bad by any means in that left center mid, especially when Arteta, doesn't have that person so up high. But I do think in the future, like you will see Rice back in the 6 and maybe a more creative midfielder at left center mid and a different left wing. The links to, Mudryk and Nico Williams have to, show that Arteta's looking towards, that position to change. Jacob says, to be honest, Leao is the player for left wing. Andy says, eventually Rice goes back to the 6. Marino isn't the guy for me. Trossard, he's shown he has to be a super sub, and Martinelli hasn't got the end product to his game. Left wing, left mid, striker are the one that I will say about Martinelli, though, I think it's not so much about his end product. I actually think that player needs to just have more in his game. I actually think the player could score less goals than Martinelli does, but be more influential for us if we have a striker that we can rely upon for goals. I think if the number 9 is more of a player that you rely upon for goals, then the left wing doesn't have to be a 15, 16, 17 goal per season left winger. I think where we suffer is that Martinelli has to be a goal scorer. Like Martinelli has to be a goal scorer, and when he wasn't scoring goals, he was hurting us, especially because he doesn't offer anything else. But just imagine if you have somebody that, is going to score 20 goals per season. Your left wing could be somebody that's just has more to his game, that can beat their man, that can go inside, outside, that can create, that has just a little bit more to their game. Basically like a younger, faster Trossard, or something like that, something like that. But yeah, I think the left half space will eventually heal. But right now, our right-hand side is what we have. That is our bread and butter. That is our guiding light. Without that, I don't. We know where we'll be. So yeah, Diallo says, Jess, please talk about that pass to Trossard, world-class Saka. And then I did mention it. That's special. Like Saka's not just this, push it past, tap in merchant kind of guy. Like he has more to his game. And anybody that's really watched Saka from the very beginning would know that, because whenever he's played midfield, which was very, very small amounts, but when he did, he showed that he had so much more to his game. I'll never forget the game that burned Leno. It's like the game that changed altered the football world, and the ripple effect from it was massive. But it was Arsenal versus Brighton, and Leno. That's the Leno when Leno's knee buckled, and Guendouzi got into a fight with Mopé. Forget all that shit. Saka played left center mid and fucking bossed it. And so if you remember those days, you remember when he played left center mid against City, when we lost to them, I think 1-0. Then you'll remember that Saka has more to his game than people give him credit for. And that pass was just like, we haven't even seen like 50% of what he can do. Andy says, what Martinelli needs can't be taught. He naturally puts his head down. Yeah, I agree that we just need a left wing that has more to his game. And I think you guys understand what I mean by that. Like, I'm not trying to, ding Martinelli or anything like that. I just think that he's pretty one note. And when he's not doing that one note, it's tough. So let's upgrade the number 9, like we've all been asking now for ages. Yep. DK says, how much would Krava cost though? I think they're trying to put a release clause in his thing for like 85 million or something like that, 90 million, something like that. Mubarak says, and that's probably the issue that we have is, do you want Kai to play number 9 next season and then get a superstar left wing like a Leao or Krava, kind of player? Or would you rather go for the superstar number 9, Kai drops to the bench and potentially still have Martinelli? Because we all know there's going to be trade-offs with Arsenal. We know that if you want to get a player in that 85 million pound range, that's all you're getting, so it all depends on what Arsenal deem is the most important. But I also think what will come into play with this is Kai's wages and the fact that Arteta really likes Kai and the fact that he's always wanted to replace Martinelli. So it could be the case where maybe we don't get a number 9 or we get somebody that's more of like a project, and then they bring in somebody on the left, so you never know. But yeah, Jonathan says a top class winger is more realistic. Don't see Arteta dropping Havertz, which is what I was just saying. Boy says 85 million for Krava is a steal if you ask me. Diallo says it's like the Ramsdale thing. When we upgrade on Martinelli, people will finally see what we're talking about. He's not up to standard. Simple. Kwame says, oh yeah, you guys are talking to each other. Yeah, I think it is one of those things, and it's not always that obvious because we're not in a position right now where we have Mustafis in the team, where it was like really obvious that we needed to upgrade on these players. We're not looking at Holding and Chambers and these guys. We are looking at a team of very, very good footballers. We have some exceptional talent in the team, like Saka and Odegaard and Saliba are the first that come to mind. We have some other, like, obviously top quality players. But then you have some others that I feel like Arteta's coaching and his tactics gets so much more out of them. And when our level drops just even a bit, it's more obvious that they're not maybe at the level as the other players. And that's like the Trossards or, but, he's already a squad player. So we already know that. And maybe that's like a Martinelli, and so you don't have to be shit to be somebody that we maybe need to upgrade on. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Chosen One says, Jess, did you see that pass at the end of the game from Saka made? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Hopefully somebody has a clip of it going around online. Because, yeah, it was really, really nice. I love him down. So, yeah, we talked about Saka. We kind of talked about, Odegaard. Listen, I was having this conversation. I wonder if the person actually replied to me. Let me see if he replied to me. I don't think maybe he didn't. Because basically he was saying like, now that we dropped Rice and Kai, we can play our beautiful football again. This was after the Nottingham Forest game. And I was like, that's strange because we played good football with them though. And he was basically saying like, you don't want to do this, Jessica. I think this was actually somebody that comes on the show. Big Smoke, are you in the chat? Because I think this is you, the same person. And I said that Odegaard is pretty much, to me, is more of the difference in us being able to play good football than anyone else because he's the one that unlocks everything. He is the glue. He is the nucleus. Without him, we cannot play good football. And I think yesterday made that point. We can play good football with Kai and Rice or whatever different players that you want in the team. It's just whether or not Odegaard is there genuinely. And I know it's like you're an Odegaard stan, so of course you feel that way. But I feel like even if you're not an Odegaard stan, you know that. Like you've seen it. Like we literally, to me, this was our best game under Mikel Arteta. in terms of the level of football that we played, the clinical finishing, the defensive, the defensive performances from Raya and Gabriel Saliba, Timber, Calafiori, um, everything just was perfect. And we didn't sacrifice good football to play a more effective style. The good football was there too. And our football has returned with Odegaard. I feel like that's obvious, so yeah, and Odegaard is so important. And should he be that important? I don't know. Maybe you can have, people will say, "Well, look at what's happening with Man City and Rodri." But I feel like if Pep could have his way, it wouldn't be like that. And I don't feel like it should be that way. I think we should have answers without some of our main players. Um, but he definitely is super important, and he was on smoke yesterday I don't even think he didn't have a goal or an assist, but you can see his influence is so tangible. It's just like right there. Um he's just yeah, he's right there on the cusp. I think last season maybe fell off a little bit and had a difficult start of the season for sure, and then came up at the end of the season for sure. But this season, I think he started off better because obviously, like, we're in November, we're not like in January, and him getting started or whatever. So, yeah, we'll see where he is at the end. But I've always felt like Odegaard has world class potential. I think Saka reached that peak a little bit faster than Odegaard has, but I do think after the season, people will undeniably say that Odegaard is world class. Make sure you guys are smashing the likes. Let me just check on the dogs. They are in so much trouble, you guys. You have no idea. I don't even know how I'm doing this stream right now. I love them. They are so ooh, they're in so much trouble. You guys have no idea. Um so yeah. Let's see. Andy says, what is evident to me is that this team has been built around Odegaard. So when he's missing, the system fails. Yeah, I mean, you can put it that way. The the negative side of it is that the team is built around him. And people are like, well, if you build the team around Odegaard, you only have a certain ceiling. I feel like, yeah, but that if you didn't have Trossard playing in the 10th position for 5 games, but you had somebody else, maybe we wouldn't be in this position. Maybe if in our darkest hour when we weren't playing well, we had a number 9 that could put the ball in the back of the net, and we didn't miss the chance against Bournemouth. We didn't miss those chances against Brighton. There's a lot of different where you can still have the system built around Odegaard, but we don't get the same result that we had in those couple of games where he wasn't there. A lot of that was the failings of windows gone past, in my opinion, not necessarily because the system is built around him. But listen, Odegaard is our most respected player outside of Arsenal. I think most people with a real football palate understand the brilliance of Odegaard, and only Arsenal fans could make Odegaard sound like a bad thing. Jonathan says some players are just irreplaceable. Rodri, Odegaard, Virgil van Dijk, Salah, etc. Chosen One says no GA, but arguably man of the match. And I saw that, like, I don't know if he actually did, but I saw somebody saying that, like, Pedri had a very similar game where he didn't have any GA, but he was like the best person on the pitch. And I think this is where, like, obviously, like, actually watching the game and seeing somebody's influence is so much more than like the bottom line. This is also why Odegaard needs to be supported with another midfielder that can offer maybe more of the GA. I don't know if Odegaard will ever reach what he did in 2022, 2023, where everything was coming off. I think he had a 15 goal, 15 assist season or some nonsense like that. It was like insane. And so there needs to be somebody else in that midfield that can offer those level of numbers. And, I keep using him as an example because he's probably the best example out there. Maybe if you had like a Cole Palmer on the other side, and this is where, like, the transition to Rice in the 6, whenever that happens, becomes important. But then Odegaard can do what he does best, which is more being the metronome and controlling the game and getting us up the pitch. And, he is creative, but I actually think his game is more the pass before the pass, if I'm honest. I think that's his game and that's needed, So yeah, you guys can let me know what you think about that. But I think the next step for Arsenal is to find their version of a KDB because I feel like Arsenal fans feel like if you're a creative midfielder, you have to be KDB. And this is why I don't like the comparisons of Ozil and Odegaard because I feel like even they're so different. Just because you're an O and just because you're a creative midfielder doesn't mean you're the same. And as Odegaard matures, I think they'll become even more obvious. So yeah, Boy says, I think Odegaard becomes that important at any team. He warps the game around him. It's just natural. He don't even know that he does it. KDL says, hey, Jess, would you ever go on a stream with that Northside guy again? I remember watching you and thinking, who the fuck is this guy shouting at? I mean, I'm going on Dan's show today, and I don't know if he'll be there or not, but if he's there, he's there. If he's not, he's not. I mean, he'll probably be mad, to be on a show with me when we're like playing better. But I just don't like the screamy, shouty people that it's like obviously like not real. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's mean to say. And like I know somebody will be like, go to him and be like, Jessica said it's put on, but it does feel put on. So I don't know. Iris says the man brings a level of confidence, and everybody talked about Odegaard. Jonathan says Odegaard is pound for pound one of our best signings ever. What a steal. That 25 to 40 million pound range has done us so well. Has done us so well. When we buy in that range, it tends to really work out for us. I love it. Kwame says Havertz needs Victor Osimhen up front, and we can sign Osimhen in January. Y'all are obsessed with Osimhen. Andy says, thing is, though, just watch the instruction Odegaard gives on the field. He controls when the team presses or not, where players need to be. Watch him off the ball. I think every player has or every team has a player that's their guy, their coach on the pitch. Ours is Odegaard. And I love that, But yeah. Jacob says, Jess, who runs all phases like Odegaard? I don't know. I feel like everyone has maybe nobody has that type of player. I don't know. But yeah, Odegaard's fantastic. Remy says Kai's tap-ins reinforces why we need a real number 9, not a false 9. I think we need more goal scorers, and we could use more goal scorers for sure. 100%. There's 600 of you guys watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I want to talk about Timber too, because I think everybody played well. So, I think everyone played well. So it's difficult to like pick out different performances. I think Saka and Odegaard were slightly above the rest, if I'm honest. But I think like the next person that really didn't surprise me, but I think showed their levels was Timber. I think I wanted to pick out his performance because after losing Ben White, I wasn't worried. You guys know how I feel about Timber, Calafiori being our best fullback pairing. I think they're the most talented and add the most to the group, and they just need to maintain fitness if they can. But Timber shows why his like athleticism and his defensive ability is such a good quality to have. And that's not to ding Ben. Remember, we're talking about the difference between a really, really good player and like a potentially elite player. Timber, if he maintains this level, is going to be put in conversations, and it's going to get nasty because I'm going to be at the front of those conversations pushing narratives. But Ben, as good as he is, he has that one thing about his game that I feel like, or maybe two things in his game. He's not, maybe doesn't have as many tools in his locker on the ball as Timber does. That doesn't mean he doesn't have any tools. It just means he maybe has a little bit less. And the defending in wide areas. I think Timber shuts down the opposition and also allows Saka to not have to help as much as Ben's physicality has kind of like deteriorated over the last couple of months. Saka's had to help him a lot more which means that Saka can't be up front more. If you noticed, last 2 games, Saka has not been defending in our box. And I think a lot of that is because Timber can be left by himself. So, yeah, I think Timber going forward and defending has such a roundness to his game and a level that he can go up even still, that it's almost like scary how good of a player he could be. He's quick, he's strong, he's physical, he's, can dribble, the body feints are great. He's a decent passer. He found his pass in the final third in this game. Or remember, I was kind of like, he needs to work on what he's going to do when he gets in the box. He did that. And he's only like 23. Calafiori's like 22. If we can keep their fucking fitness, man, we are shitting in high cotton, because we will have had, like, can you just think about this for 1 second? You have Timber, who's like 23. You have Saliba, who's 22, 23, 22, 23. Gabrielle, who's 26, and Calafiori, who's 22. You spent more, maybe you spent what, almost 40 million on Timber, 27 million on Saliba, 27 million on Gabrielle, and 37 or something like that on Calafiori. That's fucking cheap. That's fucking cheap. And 27 million on, oh, listen, I'm about to get into some bad conversations with Raya too, because Raya he's showing some world-class levels too. So, I mean, listen, like, yeah, but Timber's performance yesterday, I was like, this is what I was talking about when I couldn't really describe it. I think he's definitely going to lock down that right back spot, and I don't think it's going to be that difficult, especially with White out. That doesn't mean that White is done. That's not what I'm trying to say, but yeah, he's great. He's good. It's nice. I was like, this was I was very excited about that performance. Let's see. Jacob says only players that come to mind is Inter's mid to Kalinoglu, for kind of like what I was talking about, that gives you the goals and assists and you don't lose your shape, or you don't lose everything, like in terms of your structure. Yeah. And yeah, those midfielders are very full, like hard to come by. You're exactly right about that. Chosen One says Timber was incredible. John says Timber is class. Jonathan says Timber is insane. Chosen One says Timber, Odegaard, Saka, that right half space is amazing. Jacob says we robbed Ajax. I think, like, in terms of teams that we can feel confident recruiting from, I think Ajax and Bologna are 2 of them. We've done well with them, and I know, like, Tommy is kind of crocked, but when Tommy is fit, Tommy is an insane player too. So yeah, we can keep getting players from Ajax and Bologna. That's for fucking sure. John says Timber might be top 3 right back, left back currently. I mean, he's just ridiculous. Jonathan says Timber is press resistant, body feints everywhere. Wow. Kwame says Timber is so amazing. Jacob says Timber has everything. He can play everywhere on the pitch. Blaze says Pastor Timber was on another level yesterday. Fantastic player. Just has to maintain his fitness. Andy says Timber looks like he could be world class. He's this good and still has rawness to improve. And it was another one of those conversations of, like, when people were like, he needs to prove something, White has been, and I'm like, I get it, guys, but like, there are just some players where it's like, it's kind of obvious that they're better than another player. And I felt like Timber was obviously better than White. I didn't think it was going to take that much to prove it. And we're talking about Ben White, who's like a really, really good player too. So yeah, I mean, for us to be able to upgrade upon White, we're like very blessed in those fullbacky backline positions for sure. Especially when guys are fit. Elliot Roberts says Timber can be the best since Lauren. Yeah, I said it. Burmy says Timber is fierce and fearless. Chosen One says plus Timber's technical ability is phenomenal. Jonathan says great point. Jess Saka seemed to be staying up the field a bit more, and I just think that's important when you have like Ben and Zenny. Then Martinelli and Saka need to help more. in those wide areas because neither one of them defend very well in those wide areas. They need to help double up. When you have Calafiori can have some issues, but when you have like Calafiori and Timber that are better defenders, they don't have to help as much. Even like on that left hand side anyway, you have like your left center mid is usually a more defensive player anyway. So Martinelli can maintain his position up high anyway. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice. John says Timber is mad quick. He makes Saliba's recovery job easier, unlike Ben White. It's just a different player, you know. And I also think, Ben looked really good at right center back against Liverpool, and I think as maybe his physicality, maybe if he doesn't get his fitness back, meaning like or his athleticism, his agility, because the knee, isn't that great, he could actually be a really good right center back, filling in player, Ben, because I actually liked him in that position a little bit more. I think because I didn't have to worry about him getting beat for pace as much, So, it's not all over for Ben. That's not what I'm saying. I want to reiterate that and bring that home a couple of different times. Because I know people will hear, so you hate Ben White. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I feel like it was pretty obvious that Timber was better. The Mass Cannon says, didn't know that before, to be honest. Die Hard Gunner says, Ben is nowhere near Timber's level. Jurian is better at everything. Ben should play Saliba's half his check for the last 2 seasons. Jagun says, so glad we got him instead of Martinez. Well, we wouldn't have got him instead of Martinez. We would have gotten Martinez instead of Zinchenko. That's a different conversation. Elliot Roberts says Timber can be the best since Lauren. Okay, I read that one. Yeah, Timber is great, but listen, Ben White is a great player. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's not. Brap says facts. Victor says Ben has the passing, but if Timber doesn't slow down, we're going to be having world-class combos already. How we got him so easily, I don't know. Listen, I love these types of signings. I love signings that give you almost feel like you robbed someone. Like that's how I feel with Timber. I feel that way with Saliba, Gabrielle. I feel like we fucking robbed someone. Odegaard, I feel like we robbed someone. I love these types of signings, and they usually come in that, like I said, 25 to 40 million pound range, where you feel like you really just got one over, Victor says, so you hate Ben White and you think he's finished. That's exactly what I was saying this whole time. Exactly. You got me. Kwame says, Marion Timber is our best right back since Lee Dixon. Listen, what do you guys think? You guys think Lee Dixon was better than Laurent? Because I mean, we could go into it. Shit, I love Laurent down. Like so, and I don't think Mr. Dixon was good for a while, but I think Laurent was kind of clear of him. But that's just me. We can get into it. We can really get into it. Blade says if Timber will continue to play good, then he deserves to start. Some Arsenal fans need to get over. We can't have another situations like Raya versus Ramsdale. And I just think but I think the situation is so different anyway. I think now some people feel differently. I know Boy feels like we have to get rid of Martinelli, but I think Ben and Martinelli are different than Ramsdale. I think you have to get rid of Ramsdale because you can only have one number one goalkeeper. But we can have Ben White and Timber in the squad. We can have Martinelli and an upgrade on him in the squad. That doesn't mean they'll be forever happy with those positions or their, position in the squad or whatever it is. But, I think we have room in the squad to still improve it, and upgrade on some positions. But like, I wouldn't even entertain selling Ben White because I love him so much. So, yeah, I think you can upgrade and still keep people. Ramsdale was very different, though. You had to move Ramsdale on. I love this. Okay, people are saying Dixon was 100% better. Jonathan says, hey, respect Sanya. I love Sanya too. For sure. KDL says, Ben White is still class, been the best right back in the league for 2 seasons. Great to have 2 options. It is. Kwame says, Jess Dixon was excellent right back for our team. He was good, but I like Laurent better. Um, Anton Dunn says, "Let's get straight into it." I mean, listen, I think Dixon was great. I just think Laurent was great too, you know. So, and I think Laurent just, you know, I liked his style, you know, maybe a little bit better than Dixon's, but Dixon was like he was a proper right back for sure. Proper right back, was really like he was kind of like the old school defender. And I like that. So I'm not saying he was shit. I just like Laurent. But yeah, that's just me. I have some players from, the older teams that I really like that weren't even like some of the more, bigger names. Like you couldn't tell me nothing about Kanu. You couldn't tell me shit about Kanu. I loved Kanu down. He didn't get to play that often once, like obviously we got other players in, but I thought Kanu was clean, man. Like I really did. I loved him down, and he had some nasty skills. Like I have a video coming out with the Premier League soon, and I talk about Kanu, and I made sure to put a clip of him in there because people need to understand that we had like Henri, but we had Kanu and Wiltord on the bench. That is some nasty depth, and people need to put respect on Kanu's name. Okay, so yeah, he wasn't like the star, but I love that guy. I thought he was so good. So good. And I think that's also why I liked Adebayor so much because even though he was a kind of like a nasty piece of work, if I had to pick the type of striker that we needed right now, it would be Adebayor. Fast, strong, technical, nasty, like all those types of things. It's a shame how things unraveled, but I love that type of striker. I love that type of striker so much. Like he was so good. But yeah, Kanu, he was that guy. Victor says Kanu. Jonathan says Henri, Bergkamp, Kanu, Wiltord at the same time. That's insane, right? Blaze says Kanu was underrated. How you can be tall like this and still have good technical ability. Exactly. Like it was just wild. Like this was he was on our bench. John says the level Saliba is right now. Timber is getting there quickly. Red Square, thank you so much for your super chat. Says Timber will naturally slow down. He is burning hot as it's his breakthrough season. They are closer than people think. Remember when White was top 3 best players last season? Recency bias a bit. I would say like I don't feel like it's recency bias. I feel like I get what you're saying, and like people are always like shiny new toy, shiny new toy. I get that. But I just feel like in terms of their abilities, what they have in their locker, what they can do with and without the ball, I think it's really hard to argue that Timber doesn't have just a little bit more to his game defensively in wide areas. I think he's better on the ball in terms of carrying, dribbling, everything like those types of things. His technical ability, I think, is clear of Ben's. I think Ben's biggest problem is that if you go back to the version of Ben when he first came to Arsenal, that version is much closer to Timber than the version that we have now. And that's because this version hasn't had that surgery. So I don't think there's that, like, I don't think there's I don't think there's like a gulf between them where Ben is just like a waste. Like, that's not what I'm saying. When I look at Timber and I look at Ben, I just think Timber is just a better talent. And I think that that's shining through. But I know what you're saying. Like we're talking Ben is a very, very good player. And I feel like I have to keep reiterating that because I feel like people aren't hearing me correctly. Ben is a very, very good player. I think, like, again, as we go further up the pitch, there's more gaps between the levels of players, Like, we don't have anybody near Odegaard. We don't have anyone near Saka. Like, our front line, there's big gaps. But in the back, there's a lot of talent in there. Ben White and Tomiyasu, those are, like, top players. Zinchenko, as bad as he is defensively, he's probably one of our best technical players. So yeah, we're talking about like the difference between being a very, very good player, top player, and elite. That's what we're talking about. So yeah, but I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying 100%. Um, let's see. Lee Dixon, LaRon, Timber, Ben. So Lee Dixon is the best. Mr. Happy says Ben better at passing, in my opinion. John says Ben White best version is the January through April of 2022-2023 season where he was smashing teams when we were smashing teams. Sixes and fives. So 2023-2024. Because in 2023-2024, between January and April is when we were smashing teams. And Ben was really good in that period. That's when he scored like the 2 goals against Chelsea, right? So, yeah. Ben's great. Like I said, if somebody came in with a bid for Ben, I would turn it away. Like, I'm not selling Ben White. I just wanted him to get the surgery, like, bad. So yeah. Um Live VOJ says, yeah, this Dixon praise is crazy. That was funny. Boy says, I never considered White top 3 right back last season. Not on talent, at least. He can hit form, though. Kwame says, Andy, you are right. Kanu scoring a third away to Chelsea, sensational. Go watch old Kanu and remember that this guy was, like, not starting for Arsenal. And he was, like, a real hooper. Like, we just didn't know what we had. Samuel said, my goodness, younger Arsenal fans don't know how great we had it back then. We had ballers. We really did. Diallo says, TP5 was hooping last night. Wish I could enjoy it. I mean, you can rewatch the game. I'm sure Arsenal will put it up. And then on Paramount, if you have that, you can rewatch it. He was good yesterday. Jerome says, this is the problem with some Arsenal fan base. Praising one player doesn't mean putting down another. Timber can be better and White can be class at the same time. Again, we're talking about like very, very good players. We're not in a bad position like at all. So yeah, but if you guys want to drop some other names of players that you feel like had good performances yesterday, I talked about the 3 that for me were like the top guys. I said Timber, basically that right half space I thought really stood out to me. But I mean, there were so many good performances. So you guys drop your names and we'll talk about those too. Because we haven't really talked about Gabriel and Saliba locking up Gyokeres that much. Didn't really talk about Calafiori. I thought Raya was really good. Partey was good too. So yeah, you guys can drop those names in there too. I only did 3, but there was more because we were all really good. They were all really, really good. So yeah. Andy says, now that's what we need now is to lift trophies, not Martinelli, Zinni, Tommy, Jesus, Marino, Sterling. We don't have the squad to win Prems. Jacob says, Raya. Let's speak on Raya. He's hitting a very spooky conversation. Listen, one day I will go back and pick out those freaking videos from last season where I was getting absolutely I was getting the death threats I was getting about Ramsdale were insane. But one thing about me is I'm gonna stand on business. If I really do feel like somebody is better, I'm just gonna stay there. Because I think what it was with Ramsdale was he was making too many bozo mistakes and he wasn't confident at all. And it was like really obvious. And he had dropped a level from the season prior. And I thought it was really obvious. And I thought we needed to upgrade on our goalkeeper, but I just didn't think it was going to happen last season. That just came out of nowhere. And now that we're kind of beyond that, I'm glad that we did it. But the teething like time was so tough. But I feel like if you watch Brentford, then you know how good Raya is. And he was like top 4 goalkeepers in the season before we got him. And so the idea that he couldn't hit those levels with us, I think was just more based on the drama that he came in with. But my goodness, we weren't winning shit with Ramsdale. I'm telling you that right the fuck now. Because that guy he was just too, he didn't have it. He didn't have it, but Raya has it. Man, he just looks the part, doesn't he? I mean, he's just so calm, cool, collected. Because again, Sporting had chances. They had good shots. Like they had, I think that Quenta, he had one that Raya had to tip over the bar, and then there was the 2 shots that were low. One actually led to the corner that we conceded on, and then there was another one from the guy with the headband, Hajmalind or whatever his name is. Those are going in if he doesn't make those saves. But I think in Europe, you kind of have to you have to open yourself up a little bit more and trust that the talent will rise to the top, and I think Arteta actually did that because Raya and Saliba and Gabrielle, they got it. They got it. They have it. They're those guys, they really are. They don't need everybody sitting on top of them to keep us from conceding. So I think maybe that was a good decision that, Arteta made at a difficult time. Raya is right there. Maybe a couple more good performances away from starting to throw him in conversations. Because one thing about me is I'm not shy to put my players in a conversation. I don't give a fuck. I'm like, listen, Raya is that guy. Look at Vicario. They were saying that guy was mustard and he has lettuce hands. Like, come on. So yeah, I'm into the Raya. I think he's great. And he just has the, like, I don't want to say aura because that's lame. Um, but so it's not aura. It's more just the calm, cool, collect. He looks like he's meant to be there. He doesn't look like he's, you know, um, at a place. And I feel like there were times where Ramsdale didn't look like he was about that life. Raya is definitely about that life. Um, so yeah, well done, Raya. Diallo says, I was in the Raya Wars from day one. We fought, they tried to kill us, Jess. It was like this time last year was hell on earth. It was hell on earth, trying to try to put your opinion out there without people getting emotional about a goalkeeper that was never going to win us anything. It was all about them liking Ramsdale and Ramsdale being a nice guy, but not about his level. And he just lost his confidence. Like he just lost everything that was good about him in terms of playing out from the back and being confident. He lost that. And once he lost that, like that was done, So Raya was clear of him. And I'm glad we have him now. Mr. Happy says he's levels over Ramsdale. Mr. Happy says Raya should have done better for the sporting goal, in my opinion. I mean, I think we should just defend better on set pieces. I think our defending on set pieces has gone down, but I hear you. Jonathan says Arteta deserves praise. The way more stable with we're way more stable, like without Rambo, I think you're saying. Jacob says the way Raya's performing is easily top 3 goalkeepers right now. Amina says we were never winning with Ramsdale in our squad. I just think, and you know what? There's rivals that you should listen to, and there's rivals that you shouldn't. And I remember during that time, the rivals that you should talk to and listen to because they're not biased would always mention Ramsdale to me. That was always one of the major things. They're like, I don't think he's very good, or I don't really think that you guys can win anything with him. And it always stuck with me because I'm like, there would just be certain players that they would talk about over and over again that ended up they're actually the players that we talk about now. And so sometimes rivals have the ability to kind of show you things that you can't see because you're emotional about the team. And I know people were emotional about Ramsdale because he came in with that big group and we all love Ben White, Odegaard, and Ramsdale. The other 3 didn't work out as well. It was Sambi, Tavares, and we love Tommy, but he's like a ghost. But that group, because we like went up so many levels with that group, I think people had decided that Ramsdale was going to be the guy for us. Yeah, no. Amina says, my final straw with Ramsdale was when he said he can't focus in the game for 90 minutes. He zones out. I mean, you can, but why say that on a public platform? He does talk too much too. Diallo says they even tried to spin it and say there isn't much between them. He's not an upgrade. Nah, guys, there's an ocean between them. I think we just needed to give him a moment to Raya to relax and get into the position and the other guys to get used to him. I think we've seen with a lot of our signings that most of them need maybe a couple of games. Some need longer than others, but to get adjusted to playing with Arsenal. And when you don't have a preseason and when you come in and you take the position of such a beloved player in the team, it's really difficult. They were spreading some nasty rumors about Raya and Inaki Kanya and stuff. And I was just like, just you guys, they just didn't rate Ramsdale. It happens, you know. Jerome says, remember the bozo moment Ramsdale had against Brentford? He has one game to show. Nah, I'm still that guy. It was two, both games against Brentford last season. The first one, actually, the three games, all three games that he played against Brentford in the cup, he had one mistake. They didn't capitalize on it. And then at away, when we beat them 1-0, remember Havertz scored the goal. I think he came on and scored with his head. He had a moment where he fucked up and Declan Rice had to save a goal off the line. And then at home, he gave it to Wissa because he took too long to kick the ball. He had a bozo moment in every game we played against Brentford last season. Like, yeah. And I know people are like, but it's Arteta's fault, you know, but I just feel, you know, you gotta toughen up. You know, Jacob says Saliba's level is becoming more normal. We don't even big him up no more. Yeah, he's kind of like Saka to me. I'd be forgetting. You know, Kieran says you were receiving death threats. That's just pathetic. Yeah, like, well, I've received death threats for a lot of things, but the Ramsdale one was probably like the funniest one because I was like, guys, be fucking for real. Like, it's not that deep. Like, it's not that deep. I know Ramsdale's a nice guy. I don't think he's a bad guy, but that doesn't mean I want him between the sticks, you know? So yeah, I've received death threats for so many things. It's whatever at this point. I don't care. And he says Raya is the best keeper we've had since Lehman. You know what's interesting? I was going to bring this up to you guys. This is going to be a long stream, by the way, if you guys didn't notice. Because there's still 672 of you guys watching, and I didn't give you guys a stream yesterday, so this is going to be longer. Somebody had said that like Kelleher, because Kelleher was, I guess he was decent against Southampton or something. People were like, well, Kelleher being this good backup keeper, wasting away behind Allison reminds me of Emi Martinez just wasting away uh, at Arsenal all that time. And, you know, basically like insinuating that like everyone knows he's good, but he just doesn't get playing time and he's just at Arsenal, right? And I'm just like, did y'all think that Emmy was good before the 8 games that he played? Or no? Because I don't remember anybody advocating for him playing before that. I remember him going on multiple loans and nobody watching him on those loans and then saying he should start for Arsenal. So I feel like people keep revising history on Emmy, and I don't really understand why. I don't think any of us really understood his level until those 8 games. And it was 8 games. Where he came in for Leno, but like, it wasn't like a Kelleher situation. It wasn't like he was behind Leno all this time and we knew he was this great goalkeeper, was it? Or am I revising history? Because I'm just like, hello? You know, like what? John says it was if that first goal happened when Ramsdale was in goal, the game would have ended in a draw. Amina says, as much as I want to blame Holding for causing us the league, Ramsdale wasn't good enough in that run. He just like made us more nervous, and I think that was like pretty obvious. That Southampton goal that he gave away was pretty much like I think the nail in his coffin. I just don't think in the run in the situation that we were in that you can give up. And the thing is he giveth and he taketh away. He was one of those where, you know, or he gave away and then he giveth, or like the opposite. Like he would be basically the reason why we were fucking up, but then he would make good game saving saves, and then people say, but he saved us, and it's like, yeah, but he put us in that situation to begin with. And he just made things too fucking nervous for me. Anton Dunn says, a bag, let's leave Ramsdale alone and just praise Ryan. Exactly. Victor says, I will admit I was on Raya's case a bit in the beginning, but it was more of the fact that I didn't think he shed himself in the light at first, but it was never because I loved Ramsdale. Raya is amazing. And let's have it right. Raya was shaky at the beginning. Do I think people made it bigger than what it was? Yes. I do think people overreacted. But I mean, people have gone from, you know, Marino's a bum to Marino should be starting over Rice in 2 seconds off of like one game, you know, but after his first 2 games, people thought he was a bum. So that's kind of how it is. It's if you come into Arsenal especially if we had a window that people were not excited about, meaning we didn't do the things that we were supposed to. You're in trouble, because if you're not perfect in those first couple of games, people will want you under the jail. They will want you tarred and feathered, like at the stake. Vig says, best case example, last season against Brentford, he made a mistake leading to a Wissa scoring and then makes an amazing save from the Tony shot. He's not good enough. And yeah, exactly. Perfect, perfect, perfect. That is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like people start praising him, and I'm like, bruh, we're only in this situation because you did blah, 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 you know? So let's see. I saw people saying, yeah, Raya also mentioning Partey. Partey was good. I'm not like y'all. I don't lie. You know, if somebody's not my favorite, I'm not going to say that they didn't play well just to be a bitch. I think Partey played well yesterday. I thought that was one of his best performances in a long time. You know, it was good off the ball and on the ball, and his pass in for Saka for the second goal was really good. So yeah, he was great. Blaze says, "Hold on, you receiving death threats?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. Like, but I think like online football fans are kind of they're not very smart. Saida says, during the Wenger era, Martinez was an average keeper, but in my opinion, it was obvious that Martinez was good enough once he started playing when Leno got injured. It's just a feeling I got. So it wasn't before that. Exactly. Like that, because I was like, it wasn't before that though. Like Leno wasn't playing all those years and we just knew Martinez was good, like Kelleher, right? Jacob says, just no bias, Kanate or Gabrielle. um I'm gonna go with Gabrielle because um I think Kanate is one of those also that gets a lot of injuries and isn't available that often. I don't think there's much between them. So I'm gonna give it to Gabrielle. I think Virgil van Dijk is better than Saliba and Gabrielle. I think it's like Van Dijk, Saliba, Gabrielle, Kanate, and they're all kind of like in the same little group. To be honest, I really don't think there's much between Virgil van Dijk, Kanate versus Saliba and Gabrielle. I really don't. Yeah. So take that how you will, but they're really there's not much between them. I think the main thing that maybe they have over us is that they have experience winning major trophies. So if they want to give it to them for that, but I really do think that that's where like us and Liverpool are very like in the same boat. There's not much between them. Um, let's see. Silo says, "Are you streaming at 6 p.m. tonight?" Yep. Yep. I'm gonna stop this stream in 20 minutes or so, and then we'll come back with Dan Potts and talk about some other stuff at 6. Because and then I'll be on Dan's show after the Real Madrid Liverpool game. So yeah. Jacob says, I choose Gabriel because I feel like he doesn't abuse his strength. Yeah. Amina says TP5 has been our best player so far this season. He's been very important in our team. I think Saka has been our best player this season, but I hear what you're saying. He's probably been our best midfielder. But let's not disrespect Saka. Blaze says both Kanate and Gabriel are good defenders. Jacob says Kanate hasn't won anything major. Has he not? He wasn't there? Okay, so just Van Dijk then. I forget when he got there. Andy says for me, VVD and Gabby, because the difference is the goals, and both VVD and Gabby will add. That is the deal sealer. I think Saliba could score more goals. If I could have like one thing to like nick him on, is there's actually two things I can nick Saliba on. They're not big. He can improve upon them, but I think sometimes his box defending is not the best. I feel Gabriel is the better box defender. I think Saliba is a better sweeper. I think he's so fast and so dominant that he's so hard to get beyond. But when it comes to just defending the box, I feel like the strikers or whoever can get in front of Saliba pretty easily. And then Saliba could score more goals, but that's it. You know, that's it. I mean, I'm talking about this is It's just some person online talking shit. Like, that could mean nothing, really. But that's probably like the one thing that I could like nick him on. Anton Dunn says Saliba has no hops. I think because he's so damn heavy. John says Waneri was dribbling past everyone, and when he came on, he just needs to play a full 90 versus West Ham. I mean, it's a good opportunity to maintain our like, you know, our little momentum here. But, it's also a time where we could rotate a little bit again. West Ham are not in the best form. They're not, I mean, they won their game against Newcastle, but they're not in the best form. And, I know it's away from home, but we have Manchester United at home on Wednesday, and then Fulham on Sunday, and then Monaco on Wednesday again. So I think it's a chance to rotate. Maybe you see Jesus come back in. It would be so cool to see more from Winieri, though. I think he's really so exciting, and he was exciting coming on against. He's been exciting coming on against everyone. I think he's just not afraid, and that's great. So I would love to see him. I don't think he'll start. I think the next time we'll see him start is against Crystal Palace in the cup. Yeah, Crystal Palace in the cup. Jacob says no kudos against West Ham, and their manager is also banned from the sideline. Andy says Gyokeres smoked Saliba last night when he hit the post, and look what happened with the sending off of Saliba all over the guy. No need. Gabby is better for me. I mean, listen, I think, yeah, Saliba got skinned. It happens to the best of us. Remember, Gyokeres is the best. He's like the most in form in the world right now, so it'll happen. But I still think Saliba and Gabriel complement each other, and that's why they look much better with each other than they do with anyone else. Gabriel is more of your like traditional box defender, more strength kind of player. That's him, scores goals, all that kind of stuff, more of the talker, more of the leader. Saliba is more of the sweeper. He's somebody that's going to use his speed to sweep up the mess. He's also going to be more aggressive. I think in the first contact, like they just do different things. And I really do think that like they complement each other because whatever one lacks, the other person has. And so it's all about partnerships, isn't it? So yeah, Saliba's great. There's no beef really. Everyone loves Winieri, even other fans. Marvel says no Saliba. That was Kivior. Saliba did get smoked. And it's fine. It happens. Like it's not that deep. Gabriel is our best defender right now, but Saliba had potential. He got dribbled past. You guys, let's not get sensitive about it. Like I say smoked, he got dribbled past, whatever. Like no one's saying that Saliba's not the guy. He is the guy. He's the guy that Real Madrid won. He's the guy. We don't have to like there's not much between Gabriel and Saliba. They're just different. That's all. That's really all it is. They're just different. And they really do they complement each other so well. Boy says amazing. Someone got past the defense while we were camped on the halfway line. Amazing. I don't think it's like anything to ding him on. I do think that Gyokeres got more change out of Kivior just because it's Kivior and it wasn't Gabriel, and that just shows the levels. He got nothing until Kivior came on. Kivior got 8. He got 8 up. Brap says if we would have had this conversation 5 to 6 years ago, we would have lost that game by 5-0. I mean, we lost to them at home on penalties 2-3 years ago or something like that under Mikel Arteta. We went to their spot and drew 2-2 in a very like strange game. So yeah, I mean, if you just think about it that way, we've played Sporting very recently. We've played a team from Portugal very recently in the Champions League, and it's been night and day. I just think in the Champions League, you have to let go a little bit more. You have to play your game. And we did. We weren't all stiff and like trying to keep them from scoring. So we're all stiff. We didn't do that because they had opportunities to score. We were just better, John says Virgil also got smoked versus Southampton. Yeah, guys get smoked. Like, good defenders get smoked. Just not very often. They're collector's items. And he says, I'm just saying we see Saliba getting too tight like that often. He's class, yes, but class strikers in cup finals can turn players that defend like that. Vic says, hope Madrid smoke Liverpool today just so that their confidence dips a little bit before City, because as of right now, I don't see anything other than a 4-0 thrashing of City at Anfield. I cannot wait for this game. Real Madrid versus Liverpool. I'm really hoping Real Madrid do something. Kevo says, we have to keep that momentum going. We have to start all players that played yesterday, and we need Odegaard to unlock West Ham's low block. And we have to be streetwise defending set plays. You guys don't think we can rotate even a little bit against West Ham? Listen, we played against a more informed Nottingham Forest team with a rotated lineup and, rested players. So we can't do anything against West Ham, even a little bit. I think we could rest maybe one or two players, but that's just me. Anton Dunn says this new format already delivering beautiful games on paper already. Boy says, so Gyokeres is class and we should sign him. I see the angle now. Andy says, no rotate. Our team needs to settle with the set team. We haven't had a settled team. I'll be honest, I don't really care about a settled team. I feel like we need to have at least 15, 16 players that can come in at any time and play at a high level. I think that only happens if you still integrate and have those squad players involved. I feel like what we end up doing is we get that settled team and then we play them out for 5, 6, 7 games, and then one of them gets injured and then we can't rebound. So when I say rotate, I'm not saying rotate 5 or 6 players. I'm just saying one, you know? Because one thing about it is we're going to have to keep Marino and Trossard involved for sure. When Yeri, these players are going to play like a good a good role, So even if maybe we start with the same 11, if we get a couple goals up, we should bring in those players. Because the last thing we need is to get to the point where we were just a couple of days ago, where we couldn't play without certain guys, Andy says being settled is how the momentum is built. I mean, but we played 2 really good games in a row with different 11s. So the momentum has been built off of the back of more than just the 11 that played last night. It's been built off of Jesus starting, Trossard starting, So my point is that we don't want to get to the point where guys are not involved, because the strength in us keeping our momentum is not just having a good 12 players that are playing together with momentum. It's having 15, 16 players that are all involved and integrated. That's been always our failing, is we get very attached to 111. And then if one of them goes out, Saka gets injured, Odegaard gets injured, any one of them gets injured, the guy that comes in has been iced out for so long that he can't get his shit together. Right now, we're in such a good position. Trossard has been playing minutes. Marino has been playing minutes. In particular, those two that I'm looking at, they need to stay in and around the team and get some minutes. Waneri needs to get some minutes too. So I actually think keeping 15 to 16 players involved and fresh and warm is more important than just keep rinsing the same 11 because they played well. Because again, we played really well against Nottingham Forest. Those players are also important. Zinchenko didn't look that bad. He's also going to be important because if something happens to Calafiori, he's the guy that's going to have to step up and play. So that's all I'm saying, is not that we have to because when people hear rotate, I think they hear everyone that started is out. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, like, instead of, to keep Trossard involved or to keep whoever involved, maybe they start instead of like Martinelli. Martinelli comes off of the bench for 30 minutes and Trossard starts for 60 minutes. Or, when we get 3-0 up, if we get 3-0 up, we take Odegaard off early and put Waneri in, things like that. Because again, we didn't play the same 11 in both of those games. So the momentum is based off of two different 11s, isn't it? The back line, I kind of hear a little bit more because you want to keep that foundation, but everything in front of it, I think you can look at some different angles there. But yeah, 15 to 16 players I think is better than just rinsing the same 11. Amina says, "Do you think Nelson can start ahead of Saka when we do play smaller teams?" You mean Wanyeri? Because Nelson is at Fulham. But if you mean Wanyeri, I mean, yeah, I feel like when we play against Crystal Palace, I expect to see Wanyeri either in Odegaard's position or in Saka's position. So, yeah, I think when we play, I think we should rotate a little bit more, light rotation, not always enforced by injury. That's all. Kwame says Gabriel is our best center back in our squad. Oh, when Nelson returns from loan, he should be sold. We've done this already. We've done Nelson in small games and he hasn't really we've been talking about, oh well, he has like a little burst or he's been bright. But you look at the difference of what we get from Wanyeri and what we got from Nelson, it's night and day. So I think we can move on from Nelson and feel confident that it's the right thing. I think Nelson needs to go. We should send Sterling back to Chelsea and bring in somebody that can upgrade left wing. Then Martinelli becomes the guy that comes in. So yeah, but Nelson, we've done that for a couple of years now, where Nelson was the guy that came in for the smaller games and he only really offered a little brightness or shine or whatever the fuck people were saying, and that's not enough. Especially what you're getting from Wanyeri. There's no reason to go back to Nelson. And I know Nelson's doing decent things at Fulham, but there's a difference between playing for Fulham and playing for Arsenal. John says only a matter of time before we get the Yamal better than Wanyeri. I'm gonna start pushing Wanyeri better than Yamal then. No, I'm not, because Lamine Yamal is that guy. But yeah, Wanyeri is doing his own thing. He doesn't need to be compared to anybody. P. Trim says Arteta knew he needed to show some faith in the guys who didn't go on international duty after the last international break. John says only, oh yeah, Leonide says, I remember you moved on from Party also. I did. He's just been injured too much. So, and 5 seasons, this is, well, yeah, 2022, 2023, that he played almost the entire season, and then now he's fit now. So I feel pretty justified in moving beyond a player that's in 5 years only had 1 full season of play. So yeah, I feel no ways about feeling like we should move on from Partey. So you guys know how I feel about it. I don't want to dampen the mood. Yo-Yo says Waneri may need Jorginho Odie on the pitch to talk him through the game. Andy says we only get as close as we did last season because we were able to keep the team together. We don't have the squad to start making 4 changes in Prem games. But again, Andy, I didn't say make 4 changes. I said maybe bring in Trossard for Martinelli, light rotation. But one of our bigger issues every season is that we only have 11, 12 players that we can rely upon. So as close as we can get with an 11, we always miss out because when somebody gets injured or something happens, we have to switch things up because we have multiple competitions. Remember that Aston Villa game where we needed to rotate because we had, oh, sorry. The light went dead. Hold on. That Aston Villa game was sandwiched between 2 really important games, Bayern and something else. And we ended up rotating because we needed to, and we dropped points in that really important Aston Villa game sandwiched between those European matches because not Jorginho, I think Jesus played, Zinchenko played, we played Kai Havertz in midfield. So you can actually look at our seasons and look at how once we have to rotate away from that main 11, which you're going to have to rotate off of that best 11, that's when our season usually breaks down. Holding for Saliba, when we had to use Zinchenko and Jesus in that midweek game because we were playing in or that weekend game because we were playing in Champions League in the quarterfinal. So we actually need to keep those players more involved because we're going to have to rotate. Rotation is not something that we can not do. We have to be able to use more than just 11 players. So Yeah. John says Tomiyasu is the new Reese. Oh my gosh. Um, so yeah, we must rotate. Um, and that doesn't mean 4 or 5 guys out of the 11. Because I think we've talked about this. Running that same 11 into the ground every year hasn't borne is bore no fruit. So, and you can't really count on not getting any injuries. So, yeah, we need to rotate 100%. Yo-Yo says Partey is clearly the first choice under Arteta. The end of last season and the start of the season shows that Georgie is on standby. Rice maybe third choice there and first choice CM. Yeah, I think based on the options that we have right now, that's what Arteta is doing. Um, but at the beginning of last season, he started off with Declan in the 6 and Kai Havertz in left center mid. So I actually think that was his plan and it didn't work. And so we've been trying to untangle that knot since then. And this is working for now, but I just think at some point Rice will be the 6. I don't think we're going to build our team around a 31-year-old. John says, did you see how Man City broke the wrong record yesterday? That was wild. What do y'all want? Do you want to tell the people what you did? No, I'm not. I'm not happy with you right now. I'm not happy with you right now. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Tell them what you did. Say, I tore up the rug. I tore up the rug. He's lucky he's so cute and I love him down because what I saw was a new rug that they tore up. It was insane. Blaze says, yeah, Tomiyasu disappeared. It's sad he can't be available for a long season. Kwame says, it's good to see Tierney back in our squad. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to, there's nothing wrong with Tierney being in the squad because he's never going to play. Let's be honest. It's just whatever. But I think all of us like him, so yeah. And he says, we have no choice. The bench drop off is too big. We brought rubbish in the summer. Did we need Calafiori this season? Wash Sterling at his best. He needs 5 golden chances to score once. I kind of get what you're saying, but no matter how you feel about our bench options, there's going to be a time where we're going to need them. And having them iced out and with no playing time and no freshness and not being integrated has always been an issue. So, whether you like them or not, we're going to have to rely upon them. That doesn't mean you have to rotate 5 or 6 players out. It just means you have to use them periodically before you're forced to, because when you're forced to, they never come up with the goods because they haven't been integrated for a long time. So that's the point. Again, rotation doesn't mean everyone out. It doesn't mean taking Odegaard and Saka out and playing Sterling, Jesus, and Trossard. That's not what I'm saying. But when we play against like whatever team, when we play against a lower level Premier League side, we can rotate a little bit. It doesn't have to be everyone, but the idea that this is the 11 we're going to have for the entire season and we're going to not need to use anyone else is naive when we've watched our season crumble off of the back of having to use people, especially like in the cups and stuff like that haven't been used. I like what Arteta did with the Nottingham Forest game. He used a game that was important to show these players that they're needed and they came up with the goods. And so if he continues to do that, not in important games, but every once in a while, trust them. And we still had our best back line, by the way. Our best back line was still there. So it wasn't like we rotated everyone, but we rotated just enough where we got a really good result. They can feel good about themselves. They can feel integrated. And they still gave us something in the next game. Against Sporting, Moreno came in and did well. Trossard came in and did well. Wanyeri came in and did well. So I think it's important to me to rotate, even just slightly. I actually think our players off of the bench are much worse than they seem because they're not integrated. Yo-Yo says Tommy is another player that Arteta rates higher than much of the fan base. Only reason he was renewed in spite of his obvious poor fitness. I think Tommy will be here, to be honest. I don't see Tommy leaving. I think when we look down on it and we have Kivior, Tommy, and Zinchenko, the likelihood of all three of them leaving is is unlikely. So the one that I actually think will stay will be Tomiyasu. Like Arteta likes Tomiyasu. Patrick says, "What do you think about Tijani Reinders from AC Milan? 26 years old, left center mid role, offers goals and assists. He'd be perfect for the role that we spoke about earlier, to get a more attack-minded left center mid that doesn't like just collapse your structure. But he's not like a DM kind of thing. The problem is that AC Milan are going to offer him a new deal, and he's probably not going to leave. But he would be perfect for that role." Um, those players are very hard to come by, that can kind of do it all. Um, he's big enough, strong enough, all those types of things. He can carry the ball. He's a good striker of the ball. He's creative. He has all the things that would be perfect for the left side, the perfect thing for the left-hand side. But do I see Arsenal going out and getting him? No, I don't. But somebody like that would be wonderful. Kevo says, "We need to take West Ham serious. It's a London derby. If our key players are fit, then they have to start on Saturday." Exactly. You start your key players. But again, rotating doesn't mean rotating Odegaard and Saka off. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, is Martinelli such a key player that Trossard couldn't start? Probably not. So it probably, we'd still win. We went away to West Ham last season and beat them by 6-0 with Trossard in the team. That's all I'm saying. Is I'm not saying rotate Saka and Odegaard out. I'm saying light rotation of other players. That's all I'm saying. Yo-Yo says, "Well said. Pep mastered soft squad rotation when City won the treble, and Klopp mastered it when they were falling short of the quad." We're like the only team that still hasn't figured that out, and we have people that really want us to run the same 11 because they don't trust the squad players because they think that they're crap. They may not be good enough to start, but they definitely can offer more than what they've offered so far. But I'll tell you right now, if you've ever played a team sport at any level, you'll know that if you've sat on the bench, it's very hard to get motivated when you know you'll never play again, or where the next time you'll play is in a couple of months, or the game is inconsequential. So yeah, we need to also be able to lightly rotate. And I think most people are getting that point. Victor says, "Rotating like two players doesn't mean we don't respect West Ham. Why are you guys so afraid of rotating?" Because they've convinced themselves that our squad players are so bad that if one of them comes in, it'll collapse, when they have so many examples of that not being the case. And if you think we're going to win anything with 12 players, you're not. So you're going to have to see players like Trossard come in and give us something, Marino give us something, Wanyeri give us something, even Jesus and Sterling might have to give us something at some point. So the only way you'll get good minutes out of them when we're forced to use them is if they get some playing time in games that are not like throwaways, or games where, we're already winning 6-0, So yeah, we don't have like most years we haven't had more than like 12 players that we could rely upon. And so this is the season to change that, I think. Yo-Yo says, "Think upgrading the left wing makes the discussion about left 8 easier." P Trim says, "It's called motivation." Exactly. So yeah, again, just to reiterate, rotating, especially when we have games every 3 days, and we just came off of the back of Calafiori injuries, Timber injuries, Saka injuries, Odegaard injuries, Rice injuries, that the last thing we need to do is, now that we've gotten this team back and up and running, to run the same group into the ground. So yes, we do need to use other players, and the best thing Arteta could have done was rotate the squad against Nottingham Forest at home. That is the perfect way to rotate, because we had our best back line, so we didn't lose anything back there, but we were able to maintain, like Kai Havertz and Martinelli and Rice were able to be rested for the Sporting game. It's perfect. And people also won't get chemistry with other players if they never play with them. So again, like, you guys are so afraid to rotate because we only have relationships with certain players. Well, that's because we don't rotate. And we will be forced to use these other players at some point. If you think we're going to go through a season with 70 to 80 games and you're not going to get any more injuries to Odegaard, Saka, Rice, Partey, whatever, you're smoking crack. So just like we have to be able to use these other players. So yeah, it's not, I don't understand the rotation conversation. It's like, but these are the same people that were having absolute meltdowns before we played against Nottingham Forest because they didn't see the best 11, and it worked out to our benefit because we were able to play at a very high level against Nottingham Forest and Sporting in 1 week. So we do need to rotate. We have to rotate 70 to 80 games in a season. You must rotate. So we're not always going to get a chance to keep Saka and Odegaard and Rice out of international duty either. So you must rotate. Keenan says, we got to rotate. It has been my biggest question mark over Arteta. Glad to see it. 100%. Televator says, I remember rotating Odegaard last year in the Carabao Cup against West Ham 3-0 down when he was substituted in. That was, but see, also we rotated almost everything. And this is why they're so extreme and there's no nuance to the conversation. Rotating doesn't mean everyone needs to come out. It doesn't mean removing your entire spine, and it doesn't mean having no relationships with anybody. We looked at that 11. It was Trossard, Kai Havertz, Nketiah, Reece Nelson, Fabio Vieira, Jorginho, Kivior. It was like a bunch of players that never play together. So that's not the point. That is like wholesale changes. You could have started Odegaard in that game and still rotated some of your main players. So again, rotation doesn't mean you're 100% going to go 3-0 down. It doesn't, because we just played Nottingham Forest and we rotated like 3 or 4 players and we won 3-0. So the points don't, like, the math ain't mathin'. The math ain't mathin'. So Kwame says, just Saturday we must beat West Ham to put pressure on Liverpool. Yep, but we also needed to beat Nottingham Forest, and we did that even with rotation. So I'm not saying rotate Odegaard and Saka out. As long as we can get to the point where people are not making it seem like that's what I'm saying, then fine, but I do feel like people are being like very extreme for no reason. So Trossard instead of Martinelli doesn't mean we cannot beat West Ham, right? So yeah. Victor says, nice. We played once with a poorly rotated squad, so we should never rotate ever again. John says, I genuinely think with this poor run of games for City, LFC will expect the same, but get the opposite. Hopefully, I'm hoping that Liverpool are damaged a little bit by Real Madrid today, and then City get that odd win or nick something from Liverpool when nobody thinks that they can. That whole like everybody thought that they were going to get this, but this happens. That would be the perfect thing for us. We beat West Ham, and then we can look forward to the Man United game, which will be a difficult game because they'll be on fucking hopium and copium because of Amorim. So yeah, it's going to be one of those types of things, Keenan says, again, perfect analysis, Jess. You rotate with the frame of keeping the chemistry and fluidity high. It's up to Arteta to figure out which combinations of players work well together. Kwame says, Jess, I would like to see Wanyeri give more games. I would too. Like, it's not even just rotating from the beginning either. It's just even when there were times last season where we were up 5-6-0, 4-0, whatever, at the back end of last season, and we didn't rotate at all. We didn't rotate at all. We didn't take people out with 30 minutes to go. If you do that for 3 games in a row, that's a full 90 off of somebody's legs. So there's plenty of ways that you can rotate without it collapsing. The only reason why we're afraid is because Arteta hasn't figured it out. But every good team rotates their team throughout the season with a 70, 80 game per season, season. So we're no different. You're not going to be able to have Odegaard and Saka and these guys for the rest of the season. So, other players need to step up. And as much as I feel like some of our players are not great, or they're not starters, I do think they're better than what they've shown. I think that they could play better. But I'll tell you right now, you are demoralized. If you sit on the bench for weeks and then the next time the coach uses you is like randomly in a game where you're already losing to try to save the game with 10 minutes to go, it's demoralizing. So you have to rotate before you're forced to use someone. Ivy says, the truth is a lot of the opponents know our starting 11 already. A few rotation confuses the team that we face. Keenan says Wanyeri getting 30 to 40 minutes instead of 17 minutes makes a huge difference. P. Trim says City has pride against Liverpool. They're not rolling over. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, but listen, I need to eat something and relax for a second because we're going to go straight back into another stream at 6 p.m. With Dan. So make sure you guys are there for that one. It's already set up. We're going to actually be talking more about transfers, and I haven't spoken to Dan since the season has started, so it'll be interesting to get his take on things. But make sure you guys like and subscribe on your way out, and I will see you guys in 45 minutes. Bye, guys. And thanks everybody for the super chats. There's a lot of super chats today, which was really, really nice. Thank you so much. You guys are adding to my coffee addiction. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.